Good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn friends, Valley First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Data. Here with Klemen. Casey will not be joining us today. Happy Tuesday, man.
Happy Tuesday.
I've been thinking hard, as I usually do, about maybe this one relates to like why I'm making some of the choices that I'm making when it comes to AI and what to build and what not to build and why I'm building certain things. And I'm fairly infatuated with the idea of not for this purpose, but humanizing the agents, giving them profiles and pictures and identities and these kinds of things. And I've been saying things like, well, you just make decisions. It's easier to make decisions, the same decisions that you need to make for your human beings when you're onboarding or supporting them or putting them in position for success. Like when you think of agents as another member of the team, you tend to make like it's not a tool. It's not a tool. You don't just throw things at it. You create job descriptions and you create process to follow and you make sure it has access to what it needs. It has the training that it needs, right? And I've been trying. So just the past couple of days, so I've been infatuated with the idea of like visual novels, like combined with how the agents work. Right? Like if I had an agent next to me at the desk, right? Like, or like we were together in a room, creating something, and it didn't click for me, and maybe I'm just like choosing to force the click here this week. But like the idea of observability and like how, because agents and AI can just handle things, right, behind the scenes and in a very black boxy kind of way, there's been a lot of focus on observability and ROI and token usage and how many runs are there? Was it a successful run? All these things. And for me, it's like, is that another dashboard that's, similar to the KPI dashboards of old, where is that really like we might be able to see it, but is it really helping us understand what's happening? You can pick anything out of there that you might want to pull on. Where does your brain go?
In a way, I agree, and the other way, not so much. The first one, in my experience, when you're a builder, you really want to see all those details, so you understand what's happening. And if you're a builder, as we are, I guess now, when you are thinking, you're setting up processes, agents, dashboards from scratch, you really want to see all that nitty details. And then for that, yes, you need that observability of everything. When you are a user, a consumer of that agent, you might not need that. But the thing you really need is a clear output of that agent, so that you're vibe coding then the output and interacting through the agent with the output, not necessarily at that level of when you lock a process, when you lock an agent, where you lock something and you say, okay, this is version 1 that we're all using. So for different use cases, I see it, you need a different level of observability. Sometimes you need observability under the hood, what's happening, and then the other one, you really need to have, as soon as possible, visibility into what the agent, the process, whatever you call it, produces.
Right. And is this another trap of like, because I had a great conversation with Crispy Barnett last Thursday about like a Value First Partner show and how he is seeing great success. And I've heard other consultants and coaches understand like the value of being in person right now, right? Like going to a place, especially when it's like the kickoff of a project, being around humans, seeing like this is how we did it before SaaS, before digital. And now that it's coming full circle and people are understanding, oh yeah, man, this is so much, man, it's so much easier to communicate when we're in the same room. Like this concept of being able to click a button and just get the thing done in front of you, right? Like, is that is that a myth for what people actually want and need to like get their job done, right? Um, because how often have we tried to set that up in these systems and it works great, but there's just enough uncertainty or lack of control that the salesperson wants, "Oh, let me download it. And let me just download it. Give me a PDF tool and I can change it," right? Like I wasn't a part of the process. I didn't feel involved in the process. And like how much of those choices are driven by like efficiency and like the wrong kinds of ROI numbers, right? Like more volume or save more time.
I mean, in a way, if we treat that as a black box where you don't see what's happening, if the first 2-3 runs are okay as you expected, you will have okay feelings to just keep using that black box because it worked. It produced what you expected, and you don't necessarily, I think, feel the need to understand that black box. As you're building things, or as soon as you have a doubt in the output, you will definitely want to understand what's happening in that black box, why that is producing. So from that point of view, yes, you need that observability, and then what's happening, not just a black box where you get the thing out. On the other side, with SaaS, I think we all got used to just trusting the output. We don't question because it was kind of deterministic. It was a locked process. Same input, same output, always. Now with AI, it's not the case. It's not really deterministic output. If you rerun it many times, you will get a different output. Not totally different, but slightly different. Which means you want to understand more of what's happening to tweak it to really understand what's happening, because it's not always the same output. But because of how our brains got, let's say, trained with that SaaS approach, you will very soon not even question what's coming out of that black box, even with AI, and you'll just run with it. We're just lazy human beings, I guess. Which means you will not question, and you will just trust it, even though you shouldn't. So part of what I'm thinking where observability and human in the loop is important is the validation of what you're then using. But then we go back to human nature in, are we patient enough to really validate what we're getting if it's so convenient to just take and use it and run with it without even questioning it?
Yeah. Like so much of this is like when we look back, right? Like that's often when we need the observability to have been available, but in the moment we just want to get the thing done, right? And so, because so often, like, if you want to understand, hopefully you do, and this is where quality systems come into play, and like lots of spaces have been doing documentation and auditability and all this stuff. This is why you need to be able to connect all the dots and see all the data changes, and right, you never need it in the moment, but when something breaks, you want to know why and be able to fix it. And so that's where like the speed of what is happening, right now, as far as being able to get these things done, using agents to like to create anything, really, right? Like if you can't see at some point in time how it was created, whether this be your first time seeing it and you got to trust it, or the 10th time you've used it after it worked perfectly 9 times and you didn't care, now it doesn't work the way you want it to. There's that point of like, are you just going to run it an 11th time and hope for the best? Or are you going to lose your mind when you run it the 11th time and it doesn't work again and you have no idea why it worked the first 9 times? Right? And that's the kind of thing, like the observability data that we're seeing will not help, like in those moments. I don't think, like, you're not going to be able to see, oh, this run used 10,000 tokens and then this run used 20,000 tokens, or we used a reasoning token right here, and over here you got used over here, so that's going to tell us what happened. So here we are again, man. We're getting trapped by this cost, like this understanding of cost as the answer to like understand how well we're doing, and it's just not like. So what do we do? Like, how do we make these things observable?
Before we go into that, just a thought, which I think directly relates to observability, but at a context level. So the real thing where you as a builder really want observability is what goes in the context for the agent. What exactly was a system prompt? What was a user prompt? Which data got in? That's a big reason why we internally keep making a conclusion that RAG is not a good solution, because you don't have a full control what goes in the context. What if those tokens were just somewhat mismatched and you don't know exactly? You have no control of that. Or any tools where you don't see how the prompt was compiled, what was the system prompt of a system. You have that black box where, I as a non-technical person, I'm fine with it, but my co-founders who are technical enough just don't accept that. If you don't have full control of what goes in the context, that tool is not useful, because you cannot even humanly possibly achieve reliability that 10 over 10 times you get what you expected. You're just hoping that you get 100% correct output as you would expect. If you don't control the context, you have no control of the reliability of the output. So you need observability of what goes in, because as we, I think, all know now and understand the context, what goes in is the king. How to solve that? Use or build systems where you have a full control of what goes in the context, where you can define that, and you can iterate. That in a way, gets me back to AI availability. If you cannot control what is or was available for that agent run at that point in time, I mean, how can you trust the output? Of course, not every user of any agent will question that. You just use it. I was talking to one of the HubSpot admins, trying to use the, I think it was deal analysis agent, whatever it's called, and then he was using it, and he thought he's doing the analysis on 600 deals, and at some point he realized he's doing the analysis on 25 or something, because he had no control of the context. He had no visibility of what went into that agent. So he was super excited. Oh yeah, I did all that analysis, and this is whatever the input was. But was it what he wanted to do? No. Was it useful? No. So observability of what went into the context, he had to decompose of everything, and then realize, okay, I'm not doing on the full context I thought I'm doing the analysis. In that case, yes, you need observability. When he would build a system, run it 5 months in a row, you trust it, you will need that observability way less when you trust the system that you build. But when you're building it, you definitely need that visibility.
Yeah. It's funny how we're switching between the terms observability and visibility. And it's clear that they do not mean the same thing. And what's coming to mind is like why I felt so comfortable using something like anti-gravity IDE, and like watching like me, George, and Nico all start up differently like over the last year, where George is completely content in just staying in like the terminal like program, where basically I was uncomfortable because I couldn't see any context. Like I couldn't double check any context unless I'm opening up another window. And in those cases, there's more available to the AI. But since it's not available to me in my eye, I cannot possibly control the context like from the outset, right? Unless I'm learning through the conversation which files it's looking at to do the thing. And then I say like, no, not that one, the other one instead, right? Or you just did this yesterday, or like, so that visibility of even just the folder structure, right? I mean, Breeze Assistant for a long time, we didn't know which objects exactly it could see. And that was a huge problem for me, right? Because I use all the objects. And the moment you say, like, you assume this object is either custom, the moment that there is an assumption made that can be immediately like countered or disqualified. I can't think of the word right now, but it's obviously not the truth, right? It has nothing to do with intelligence level. Obviously, hopefully everybody is starting to understand that it has everything to do with context. It must not have had the context, right? And again, we're back to our humans working with each other. Like, oh, why would Klemen have said something like that? Like, not because of any intention, but because he didn't have the context he needed. Because we've had conversations since then, and the situation has changed, and Clem wasn't a part of those conversations, so he didn't have updated context to say that thing that we were all expecting him to say, right? And in those moments, that's where I think like the difference between Clemen being in the room with us and watching the misunderstood context get executed live versus, oh, Klemen sent that email last week and now we are just finding out about it and we can track when it happened. But the fact that like it wasn't really observable because we're using these systems that are integrated and now we build more systems to make things observable instead of making things visible. Right. And like, just think to yourself, if you've used Breeze Assistant recently, just watching it reason, right? That's visibility we didn't have.
Yeah.
And so, and because I'm building a system where like I'm trying to build the Claude Code experience in another place, and it's showing me how much is actually involved in creating that thought process and making it visible. When I first did that, and I'm like, hey, let me have a chat. Let me chat with my agents like over here. I want to build that out. It's like, okay, you'll just use the bridge. It'll work, blah, blah, blah. First pass, I give the prompt to V, and then V's like, cool, I'll run that. And then nothing happened for 3 minutes. And then after 3 minutes, like, boom, here you go. It's like, doesn't matter if it's right. I don't feel good about like, is it working? Is it not working? Like just this uncertainty that gets created in that moment, it doesn't feel good. Right. And so then you start to understand like how this stuff works. And like, they don't like, that's the kind of thing. It's like, there's only one reason to show all the turns of the conversation, to make us feel bad about using it, to help us understand how it works. It gives us a chance to see on screen like what is happening. So even though I have no idea the code or what the words are on the screen, I feel better about being able to see it or being able to show it to somebody else at some point in time if I want to. Right? So many layers to this, man.
I mean, I see that as part of how you can make people trust AI in a way of, adopting it, of changing the mindset. I had today 2 in-person meetings with 2 companies, just talking how we can help them bring AI in everything from certification, from market research, from preparing documents, proposals, whatnot. And then part of one of those discussions was they see people being kind of afraid of using AI because they're still using it like we all used ChatGPT back in, when it came out. That's their level of understanding of AI. And they're all used to just write me a follow-up email and whatever comes out with no instructions, with no context, it's somewhat bad. And they say, oh, AI is shitty. How do you get those people, which are definitely not early adopters, as I think we are in a bubble? How do you bring those to the other side of trusting the output? If you build them an agent where they have no visibility of what's happening, if you don't explain them what context goes in so they can trust the output more, it will be hard for them to adapt to that. Of course, if the output is always good, it will definitely help. But still, that trust into agents, I think, can be built with just seeing them do work and seeing you as a user, a co-worker with that agent, being able to view things in the meantime that they're building. if you're building a quote, if you're building a website, just see it build, iterate. If you're making a proposal, see the first drafted version, the first summary. You see, if you just get the last output out, I don't think you would really appreciate what you got, and you would trust that much if you would be in the loop.
Oh man, so good. Because I just happened to make this today in the last hour. And this is why I've always struggled with businesses, like somehow, like your value set, your core values or whatever, does not include trust and transparency. And like it should be just every business, like that's like value number one, right? And I guess maybe because it's assumed, or because it should be table stakes, but at the end of the day, it's not. And like it starts by building to it. Like we have to want trust as an outcome in order to start there, in order to get there, I should say. And a little bit of an epiphany today. And again, maybe this is just me trying to get out of the norm and not do things that I'm supposed to be doing because I don't like it. But I'm trying to put this UAT program together because that's what you're supposed to do when you're delivering software and building stuff. You got to get the sign off, right? So you build for the sign off. You don't build for trust. And then we don't understand why people don't adopt things or rely on things, because we just showed up to make sure it worked from a functional technological perspective. Not did it work for you in your daily flow wherever, like this week, tomorrow, next year, when in reality, HubSpot, something like a HubSpot, can work in all of those scenarios if you know how to make sure it works for you, right? That's the beauty of the system. And so I'm on a call this morning and I did the thing, like the whole UAT script. It's like, all right, we're going to add a new company to HubSpot. It's going to do some cool stuff. And sales is on the call, and like the admin and even accounts receivable, or the accounting team on the call. Because the information we take in the beginning, when we get it to the accounting system and who's in charge of approving the company record, like we need all those people to trust what's happening, right? And we're lucky in that case because the whole business is moving into HubSpot except for the accounting system. So we don't have to worry about which team is in charge of which system, right? But if I would have just shown up on the call and said, create a new company, like fill out this form, then click this button, and then get the green light, the amount of insight that came out on the call were people ideating about how the process should they want it to work, about who's in charge of what, when, the accountability across the team. Like those are the things. There's zero chance they're asking those questions because I gave you a script that you're supposed to follow. Which, like, red flag number one, that if I don't do anything, if I do something outside of the script, like it doesn't count. Like, but like it's just, so I just was thinking about this, like, what if we built for the trust and not for, the sign off? All of a sudden it makes so much sense to do things that you yourself would want if you wanted to trust a process or a new piece of software or a new agent. And Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it just like, I guess I just have to pick every status quo fight like available in the market. Um, am I crazy here?
I don't think so. I would say this is the hard part that I think most people don't appreciate, the difference of those AI fluff people who are saying just throw things in Claude and it will work. No, it won't work. You need to think what you need to validate it. You need to test it. You need to do things beyond those 20 perfectly captured records. And why a solution that will be adopted and used, or the approach, will not cost just one prompt, but a few discussions before you even build. So you understand what you need to build that is covering the process that everyone internally expects. Then you can build a solution that will be adopted and used. It's in HubSpot or wherever. But if you don't understand the real intention for whom you're solving that, you'll just build something that at the end of the day will not be used and adopted. And it's not because what you built is not good, but it was not built for that process. And then at the end of the day, a sales rep will say, yeah, it's not useful for me because I have a different process. I need something else. That agent can work perfectly. But if it's not what they need, they will not use it. No matter how good the interface is to that agent or whatever, or even how well they see what the agent does. But if it's not what they need, if it's not supporting their processes, they will not use it. So this is the hard part, in my experience, over the last months of discussions, internally and externally with companies. And this is the part where AI can only somewhat help. But without that,
Right.
it will be just shooting in the dark.
Yeah. And like, this is why AI is different, in my opinion. Right? This world that we're in right now, completely different than anything like that we've experienced before. Does it work? Has like, is that table stakes? We really have to be answering that question. Like, technologically, we've got the most advanced system ever to make sure stuff works as we've instructed it to, or as the user has instructed it to. And when it doesn't work now, again, we come back to context. It most likely, like, can you point to the context it didn't have or misread for the reason it didn't work? Right. So, like, again, maybe this is trap number 87. I need to document. But like, if we're asking this question, we're in a bad place. Like, if that's how we're getting paid and that's how we're getting benchmarked, like, no benchmarks are about like, is it working? Like, no, it's like, how's it performing? Like, how well does it do? Like, does it do the thing? Like, all the things you said, which relate to this other question. Right. And it's bringing us to a place where even the humans are getting it. It's like, doesn't matter how automated the thing is. If you're not super sure like how it works, Or like every time you talk about it, you can come up with a like an exception scenario, edge case, and like you just endlessly come up with edge cases. Guess what? You should not try to automate that process.
Yeah.
Instead, you can automate everything around to just serve up the context needed for the human to make all of those edge cases decisions, because none of them are edge cases. They just require human judgment, like the process every time. And that's okay. And if you like, yeah, man, we could go on for a while on this topic.
Yeah. And
We won't, but go ahead.
now, when you can really build custom stuff, we're in a position to achieve that. You can just keep iterating on the system until it earns trust. As I said, it will work from version 1, but is it producing what you expected? If not, previous world, you were just stuck. You had to adapt your process to whatever the tool allowed you to do. Now you keep iterating, improving the system until it does what it is expected to do.
Yeah. We should talk about configuration over customization at some point. For that reason.
Yeah.
Because it's still like, obviously it's easier than ever to customize. But like where the line is between customization and configuration, right? Like customizing the context architecture and the way that you choose to make markdown files and skills differently than everybody else just because it feels good, right? Not the best idea as the model updates and like everything you thought you knew like is no longer true. I've been battling with that one in my head for like where the line is there. But to your point, like anything can be built now so that the technology serves whatever process, whatever workflow, whatever decision-making style, expertise level. It's there now, which means the hard part is making those decisions about what expertise we have. What does our workflow look like? When do we need it to work like this versus like this? Right? And so much of that comes back to trust, which the best shortcut ever is, can I see it with my eyes right now? Not tomorrow, not at the end of the month, not in some score or some dollar amount, surely. But can I see it happening? And do I even know that I could see it if I wanted to? I don't need to see it, but as long as I know I could, right? We're good. So much of that. Us humans are so silly sometimes. But we're here to help you lean into that instead of trying to govern it out like you have been unable to do for the last 25 years here on Value First Data. Thanks so much, Klemen. This was a fun one. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.